All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Fighter Talk. So, a lot's going on at the moment, and we're going to kind of go over some of those things with you. Not all of them, but some of them. Main things is the Errol Spence. We're praying for you, but we'll touch on that in just a moment. We have some breakdowns of some of the fights that just happened, the upcoming fights this coming up weekend. So, Dustin's got a little more insight on that stuff, so go for it.
First of all, thank you guys for joining us again. We do really appreciate you being here. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We do appreciate that support. If you want to get the notification bell on as well, that way you don't miss any of the new content, we appreciate that too. But yeah, like he kind of said, we're just going to break down a few of the events over the last weekend, a couple things that have happened so far this weekend, and then kind of look forward to the upcoming weekend's fights. UFC Tampa, UFC ESPN 19, UFC 119. There's 12 names for it, but if you're in the know, you know what I mean by that. Anyways, I don't know about you, but I just recently, obviously with the Errol Spence tragic news, saw a video about 10 minutes ago on Twitter, and it's some security footage of the actual car accident, and boy, is it pretty bad. So again, like he said, our hearts, prayers, thoughts go out to the Spence family. We're rooting for you, champ.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you guys who have not seen the footage, that will be right up here. You can click the link and read what happened and see the same thing that we saw. Again, nothing but love, and wish you the best, champ.
Since we're talking about boxing, though, I guess let's start out with that. Did you obviously watch the Triple G Derevchenko fight?
I did.
I didn't catch much of it, so I'm going to go ahead and let you take the lead on this one.
There's a lot of controversy. Should it have been a unanimous decision, a split decision, a draw? I agree with the decision, personally. He put in all the work in the beginning of the fight. Although, man, homeboy was a champ. That dude came through and made Triple G earn every inch of that victory. Nothing was given. But I do feel a lot of people, because Triple G's been so dominant, that if he gets hit, he's losing, or he doesn't have it, or
lost a step.
Yeah, and that's not the case. It's just he's getting older, and people are getting better. You know what I mean? These kids are coming up with these pedigrees of this amateur career and Olympic careers, and just fight experience. You know what I mean? And when you have enough fights out there, you have enough footage out there, you can study and break guys down and figure out habits and so on and so forth. And then again, a lot of the things that people don't ever take into consideration are, one, he was told to be ill, which obviously, again, hurts with your cardio when you're doing a 12-round fight and pushing that type of pace. Two, he's got a new camp. It takes time to build chemistry and understanding what a coach wants, because if I start taking on new students, they're not used to my numbers, my pad work, my drills, what my combinations for success may be, because they're not going to be the same with everyone. During a fight, you have the fight that happens, which is you fight on instinct and intelligence and smarts and awareness, but then there's also things that are muscle memory that happen that you don't even know you did, which is why when you hear a lot of fighters talk, they tell you, I need to rewatch the footage. I need to go back and watch the fight so I can see how it broke down, because you don't remember every microsecond of the fight, and a lot happens within a second. You can be hit 2-3 times in 1 second, which is crazy for people to really fathom and think about. When you're getting hit like that, to be aware, counter move, change the angle, step, get out of the way. It's really easy to sit behind a keyboard and say this person won or this person did it, and so on and so forth. So hopefully you guys give some of these fighters a break and really try to understand what we're trying to bring you guys here on this channel is an inside look and some of the back things that fighters won't tell you. No fighter wants to make an excuse. I totally understand that. But the reality is the reality, and life happens, and it plays a huge impact on your mental, which most people say fighting is 80% mental, 20% physical. I really, really, really believe that, and I can give you plenty of examples with Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen 1. Who else just fought? This Triple G thing, for example. There's Mikey Garcia. There's Lomachenko. There's a lot of guys who fought with circumstances, and they end up overcoming, or maybe not. But it happens to a lot of really good fighters all the time. So
you see those circumstances outside of them, their lives play out in their fights, especially when you've grown to expect certain things from certain fighters because they're great. Yeah. My question I was going to ask you is, you think number one, there's a lot of like narrative that's saying that like Triple G is at his peak and he's starting to kind of be over that hump and maybe starting to decline a little bit because of, you know, a fight such as the way this one went this weekend. I don't personally think that. I think his style is a certain one that maybe isn't as fast as someone like Canelo, but he's kind of always been that way, plotting, if you will. But that's always worked for him, and that is his style. So I personally don't see that. And then my other question is I feel like over the last 10 years or so, as the UFC has become so much more popular, and their model is more of a matchmaker model, where they're trying, you know, at least trying to put together like the best fights that they can. The most competitive fights. I feel like boxing is kind of starting to take a little bit of a page out of that book in terms of, you know, really putting these high profile fighters up against not slouches, not tomato cans. And so we're starting to see that too. Some of these people we may have thought or seen as invincible are just getting really tough tests, and I personally think that's the way it should be. If we're trying to build up a Triple G Canelo third fight or something like that, you want to see that they're not perfect, they're not invincible, so that you can, you know, really start to think about how a third fight with Canelo would work out, or just other fights for him in the future. What do you think about those things?
I agree, and I don't disagree, but my opinion is different. I agree that I don't think Triple G's career is over or even ending, but I will say he's not in his prime. That's a fact. But that doesn't mean he's a bad fighter, and that's where I get frustrated. Just because a guy's not in his prime anymore doesn't mean he's bad or he's a schmuck or a schmo, and none of his accomplishments matter.
That's his physical prime, right?
Right.
So all of his knowledge, experience,
but
wits.
His knowledge and of his experience can still win him fights.
Right.
Even if it's a tough fight,
That's
he
right.
can still find a way to win. Pacquiao's doing it. Mayweather did it his last, I think 9 fights. Floyd was not the Floyd of before. But he's still Floyd, who, with all of his ring experience and knowledge, was able to find ways to win. When he got hit hard by Shane, he found a way to hold, not touch the canvas, and then find a way around the right hand to punish Shane for the rest of the fight. You know what I mean? He was able to make guys miss, use hard feints to make guys cut their air in half, change angle, put pressure. There's a lot of things that he did, but he was not the Floyd of young where he could throw, you know, hundreds and hundreds of punches with that speed and power that he used to have. But he still has speed, just not what it was. So Triple G still has power. He's very dangerous, and I would not want to be in a dark alley with the guy. But that doesn't mean he's invincible. No fighter is, and we all know that. Father Time is the only one that's undefeated, and that's just the way it goes. So that's my take on as far as his prime goes. But as far as matchmaking goes, I think boxing's doing a better job of making the bigger fights because they need the draw. Mm-hmm. Also, part of it is if a guy is not here, then he becomes a gatekeeper, meaning they're going to start to use his name to build up the fighters underneath him. So they'll bring up some of these fighters to use this name so that they can win, even if it's a bullshit win, just so that they can say, I beat this person, he deserves this next shot. And then they start to build this guy up.
Pass the promotional torch, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's just, you know, that's the way fighting works. And that's not bad. It's not wrong. It's just everyone's going to get there. If you stick around this sport long enough, you will find that you are not invincible. And Father Time's going to get you, man. That's just the reality of the sport.
Yeah. Well, UFC 243 is wrapped up. It's in the books. What do you think of Izzy's walkout?
Izzy's walkout was fire, and if I could dance, I would totally do it. Izzy, you're the man. I had about 3 bets going that you were going to ice Robert in the first 2 rounds. Thank you for letting me win those. I appreciate it. From striker to striker. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I know. Being a striker at heart, I just know you're just loving that. And I no hard feelings. I know you love Robert Whittaker. You think he's a beast as well.
Robert, you're a savage. And if I ever root for a fighter, this is just I root for the fighter. But if you ever know me or met me, I respect all fighters, even guys I don't care about personally. I still respect everything you do in and out of in the ring. So don't let that get confused. Robert, you're a savage. You'll be back. You're young. You're hungry. You're talented. If I have to pick, which I don't mind doing, I'm going with Izzy because he's a striker and he beat the legend, who's my favorite fighter, is Anderson Silva. So Awesome fight.
And he pretty much, I mean, he's getting credit or going out and saying he pretty much beat him twice. You know, he knocked him out in the first, at the end of the first round for the most part, and then finished him in the second. And honestly, I really enjoyed that fight. I thought it was going to be more competitive than it was. 16 months off for Rob obviously had played a part. I'm hearing both narratives of he didn't look anything like himself, or he looked great and he was, you know, coming out just like we've seen him in the last couple of Yoel fights. I personally will almost like lean towards an interview Kelvin Gastelum, obviously we know him, did yesterday or the day before, and he said after seeing that performance between Izzy and Rob, he felt like he was actually robbed his opportunity to win the belt back in February when, you know, Rob had to pull out due to injury, because he felt like if Izzy dispatched him in that way, then he would have definitely been able to win that fight. So, you know, if you watched our last breakdown, you know, Kelvin Gastelum was on here kind of breaking down those fights and was really keeping his eye on that fight. And so, you know, I'm going ahead and starting, you know, the hashtag Gastelum Adesanya 2 right now. I mean, obviously he needs to get through Darren Till November 2nd. But once that's done, I personally feel like he deserves his rematch. I know the UFC and a lot of people, because of the after the fight antics when he was on the cage flipping off the overinflated balloon animal, Paulo Costa. Great line, by the way. That's probably what they're going to try to set up for the next fight for Izzy. So, given the timelines, that very well might work. Izzy could fight Costa, he gets through him. You know, Gastelum fights Till, gets through him. So, I mean, I just personally want to see Kelvin Gastelum fight Israel Adesanya with a full gas tank coming in as close to 100% as possible. He even said, Gastelum, in his interview recently, that Rob tried to kind of take some of Gastelum's entries and use some of the same footwork and things like that to get inside on Israel, but his boxing head movement, his boxing footwork, he just wasn't able to do it. So again, I'm just championing this idea that I definitely want to see a rematch between Kelvin and Israel, especially after seeing how that fight went. But overall, the card was great. Dan Hooker, phenomenal job. Those low calf kicks are just changing the game, man. And shout out to Ally Quinta. Holy shit, tough as nails. Took 2 or 3 of them in the first round. Had to basically fight out of southpaw the entire fight, and just had 0 quit in him, 0. And in my opinion, his stock went up even in a loss. So, overall, I thought it was a really good card, good event.
I agree. Same. Hooker was a savage. Again, striker for life. He comes out of Izzy's camp. So
that's right.
You already know who I was rooting for, so that was a no-brainer, and it was an awesome, fun, a very, very skillful fight from him, and he made it look easy against somebody who's not a chump. I mean, Ally's he ain't no slouch. But great fight. I like what Rob said, man. He said, I was in the best shape. I'm well prepared. He felt as good as he could ever feel, and he just came up short. And that's fighting, dude. If you stand in the pocket and trade with anyone, guess what? Someone's going out. It's going to be you or him, and it happens. You know what I mean? Like, you throw at that speed with 4-ounce gloves on, and you know how to hit and be somewhere. You know, Israel just happened to be better in that exchange. He knew what Rob was going to do. He knew to slip back just a little bit. He was out of the way of the second punch, and Rob wasn't. And that's fighting. So
shout out to Luke Thomas again. You're going to hear me bring him up a lot, but and his used to be Monday Morning Analyst. Now it's Morning Combat Dissected. It's a show he does where he breaks down kind of the X's and O's, and he calls it the Hagler switch. Marvin Hagler would be in orthodox position, and his whoever his opponent in would crash in, take an outward angle to Hagler's right, and instead of completely pivoting, he would just switch his feet, now be in southpaw, and start to exchange with him in that new stance. So a lot of those entries and those bursts that Whitaker had coming in on Izzy, he stayed put for the most part, got his upper body out of the way, waited for the rush or the collision to happen, and then see where they both were. And then the way he dropped him at the beginning of the first round was he basically had switched to southpaw and threw a little uppercut hook. At the end of the fight, you'll see a similar thing. He caught him with the right, and then he was still there, so he finished him with the left. And those little nuances to the footwork and details like that really kind of get me off.
Yeah.
So shout out to Marvin Hagler, and even in the post-fight press conference, Israel said, used his quote, which it's hard to beat the pavement at 4 a.m. in the morning when you're waking up in silk sheets. So to any fighter, just if you start to achieve some sort of level of success and things are getting a little easier around you than they were when you first started, you got to stay hungry, man. Stay broke, stay woke is another Israel quote. But yeah, man, shout out to that fight. It was a phenomenal fight, and I'm gonna have to watch it a few more times even to take a look at all those little nuances. But that'll take us into this weekend's fights. It's UFC Tampa, Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Michelle Waterson. We've already had some drama this week with, I actually heard an interview last night with Joanna saying she doesn't know how this information came out when originally it was reported that it came from Joanna's camp about her struggling to make weight this weekend. Her last fight was at flyweight against Valentina, which is 125, 10 pounds heavier. She's always struggled to make the 116 weight cut, and I'm not trying to talk crap, but we've seen kind of a trend with George Lockhart's fighters struggling lately. So anyways, the interview I heard last night, she said, keep it calm, I'm fine, the weigh-in's in 2 days, so I really don't want that main event to get scrapped just because it's a big fight for both those ladies. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how that fight plays out. We'll see if she makes the weight and it goes on.
I think she's, if anything got out like that and she is saying she's going to be fine.
Damage control kind of thing?
No, I think it could be a ploy.
Sure.
Like, hey, I can't make weight. Then Michelle gets word of it, starts slowing down.
Sure.
Maybe not training as hard, thinking the fight's going to be scrapped, or lets her think it's going to be easy because she's struggling so much, and she doesn't push that extra little bit, and it could be a bait. So, Joanna's pretty professional, and she's very respectful of the belt and what goes along with achieving to get it back. So I think she's going to make the weight, no problem.
You never know. I mean, I'm not trying to talk shit on this card because actually there's a lot of good fights on the undercard. I wish I had it pulled up because I wanted to mention a few. But yeah, so who knows? Maybe it's just a ploy to grab a little bit of attention this week and get it focused on this fight so more people watch. But in the co-main event, we have Cub Swanson taking on Crone Gracie, Ice Cream Crone. That one is an exciting fight for me just because I like Crone Gracie's personality, except for his opinions about Flat Earth. But I heard an interview with him last night, and he was just so calm, and he's just so about challenging himself and trying to represent his family. I didn't know this, but I guess his brother passed away, so after that he kind of changed his life and decided to dedicate it because he was the only left son to pass along the legacy. And man, I'm excited to see this fight. He's in a good mental headspace, I feel like. And Cub Swanson, man, he's a veteran of the game. His last fight against Matt Sales was a tough fight. Anyways, a little bit of also dirt I've heard about this because of the politics that go along with jiu-jitsu and the Gracie name. Cub Swanson actually hasn't been able to train jiu-jitsu at a few of the schools that he normally trains at since he took this fight with the Gracie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that, but I do respect the omerta and the respect of your lineage and stuff like that. But that's just an interesting little tidbit. Although Cub Swanson's a good fighter, he's a good striker, he's well-rounded. I'm sure he's game for this fight. But yeah, it's a good test for Crone, and I'm excited to see, because it's going to give us a good idea of where he actually stands, and it's his second fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
So
he wanted a top contender like this.
That's true.
His first fight, and they didn't give it to him, so he got it for the second fight. I mean, he still fought Bruce Leroy, who I think is a really good fighter. That was a good test for him, and he came out on top. And as far as I go, Cub, you're a savage. You train with a lot of my homies, Steve, Martin, Raja, and all those guys. So shout out to you guys. Cub, I wish you nothing but the best. But as far as me making my picks, man, like I said, I'm a Diaz, Stockton 209 guy. His whole camp, his whole posse. So I've been following Crone since before he was even around, man. I've been following Rickson Gracie since I was a young buck. You're talking 20 years ago. So I was more than ecstatic when Rickson won Worlds. I was Crone won Worlds, and then took his first MMA fight overseas. He won, did it again, and then when they announced his UFC debut, I was through the moon. So for him to win, stoked. For him to be able to do it again, I hope he brings his dad the best story possible. Wins the title, he retires with it undefeated. That's just the story I want for Crone. Will it happen? Who the hell knows? I don't know, man. Fighting's crazy. And Rickson, when he fought, was undefeated and was a savage, but he used Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Old school Jiu-Jitsu, not sport, I'm going to pass and win by points. I mean, stomp you out. and hurt you jiu-jitsu. So that's what Crone does. Crone is all about submissions. He don't give a shit if he loses by points. Then that means you didn't win. You know what I mean? He doesn't care. It's all about submission. He wants to beat you. He does striking from his interviews. What he says, he does it to learn it for defense and to know how to enter and exit. But he's not trying to spend a lifetime to learn striking because he already spent a lifetime doing jiu-jitsu and to be the best at it, which he is. It's different. It's not like a normal black belt. He makes black belts look bad. So I'm excited to see him get in there and mix it up with Cub and see how that will work to get inside. Like, because the fight starts on its feet and it starts on the outside. So you got to get in and be willing to take a shot or make him miss, show a feint. Something has to happen for you to get past the hands or the legs. So I'm interested to see if Cub can capitalize on it, and I'm also interested to see if Crone can get by it. And if he does get tagged, do you have the wherewithal to get through it, get him to the ground, and do what you do best, and get away with a submission. So, but yeah, man, my pick is Crone.
So I'll go ahead and piggyback off that. I mean, obviously Cub is a local fighter. Like you said, he knows a lot of the people that we train with and have trained with in the past. And so, I love him. I think he's a great fighter. I root for him in most cases, but I'm also a Diaz Brothers mark. I've been a fan of them for many, many years. Shout out to Mighty Matt Stoughton and the High Roller BJJ community. I've met a lot of cool fighters by going to that event, including Crone, including Daniel Strauss, and a lot of those guys. So, again, we love you, Cub, but my pick is also going to be Crone. Basically, I think that's it, guys. Please like, subscribe to the video, share it, get the notification bell on so you don't miss any of our content. And please, comment, engage us. We want to know what you guys think. We appreciate feedback. As we've mentioned, we're new to this. We're learning on the job. So we appreciate all feedback. It can only make us better. As well, as I said before, engage us in the comments and let us know. We don't have to always break down future fights. We would love to break down historical fights, the famous fights from the past that you would just appreciate our perspective on. And but that just kind of is piggybacking on the idea that we want you to engage us, we want you to comment, we want you to tell us what fights that you want us to break down, old or new. Maybe it's an obscure promotion, maybe it's not the UFC or Bellator or Glory or one of these big ones like one. So please like, subscribe, comment to the channel. We really appreciate you guys watching, and until next time.
I agree, man. We're going to see you soon. I appreciate it. Unlike him, though, like, comment, subscribe, unless you got some negative shit to say. If you got something bad to say, go home. I ain't trying to hear it. You know what I mean? So, keyboard warriors, all those clowns, like I said, just do something with your life. Go be productive. Do something else. As far as everyone else, man, I hope you like the content. Well, we're pushing. We're working hard. Because outside of this, both of us have jobs and work and maintain MMT Fitness in the gym. So if you're in the OC area, if you want to come and try it out, if you want a personal lesson with myself or any of the instructors, feel free to come in and ask, man. Come in, just get work. If you want to come try a class, from me to you, it's free. Just come give it a shot. I push it because I love it. And I want you to love it the same way, and I want you to see why we're such a tight-knit thing. We're just different. The gym here is different. It's hard to explain until you come feel it for yourself. So with that, we'll let you go. We appreciate it.